All right, listen up, everyone. How we doing? I trust we all are doing well and having a wonderful time at our individual location. All right, I don't know who this video is for, but I think it should be going to an individual or maybe that young man, that young woman who's out there for any reason still trying to find his or her path in life. She's trying to define his essence, his existence, still struggling with one thing or the other, and all of that, either the rich, the poor, and is going to anyone who might care to listen to this video. Listen up. Maybe for any reason you are staying with your parents who might not know much, but even at that they still try to advise or talk to you, looking at the little they know, looking at where they are coming from and how it has been for them. They lead to their being able to pass through across to you, and they are doing their best. Or maybe for another instance, you live in an environment where you hear should I call it now, preachers who wake you up every morning with their megaphone, with their speakers, preaching, talking about Christ to you, for you to repent, give your life to Jesus, amend your ways, the laws, the things you need to do, the things you have to let go, and all of that. Or maybe for another reason, an individual again who maybe for any instance you are going to work or you are coming back, there's always this bus you normally entered and you hear, preachers, messengers, people who for that time being of you coming down or stepping down from your bus or your car now, that preacher is always, saying some things about you giving your life to Jesus, letting go of some things that are not right and all of that. Or maybe you are in a church, always in a gathering of brethren, together, and you hear teachers, you hear preachers, teaching year by year, and all of that. Sunday school, the main message, ministers coming programs year in, year out. You're always there listening, and these things are being taught. It will look as though they are wasting their time. It will look as though they don't know what they are doing. It will look as though they don't have work. My friend, listen, it will not always be like this. It will not always be like that. Even as I want to think that the pandemic might have taught us lessons that we will have to learn from, that okay, look at how things were at a time, that we as individual believers we now have to become pastors and teachers and leaders to ourselves, and we're locked indoors, that everything that has to do with church, that everything that has to do with messages going out, all of those things were no longer happening. They were all in a stand still. That individual will have to become a pastor to their own self. Even as I would think the pandemic has taught us a lesson, but for most reason I'm saying this again, that it will not always be like that. For that young man, where you always have opportunity, maybe on your way to your work, the bus you always enter, you always pass this man who always stand by the junction, preaching and stressing and sweating, talking to you about the love of God. It will always be as though he or she is wasting his or her time. But trust me, it will not always be like that. Please do all you can to make use of every opportunity that comes your way. Either time, either money, either every space, everywhere you find yourself. Make good use of every opportunity to grow. Make good use of every opportunity to know God. Make good use of every opportunity to become closer to God, as it will not always be like that. The opportunity to learn, to develop yourself, to learn that skill, to learn that trade, to grow yourself, to knowing yourself more, to knowing your place in destiny. Please, it will not always be like that. Opportunity will come, time and chance will happen always to them all, according to Ecclesiastes. So please do all you can to making use of the opportunity you have, as it will not always be like that. Looking at this time, for instance, inflation, the governance, the leadership, and everything happening in our country today, please trust me when I say these things are not happening to everybody. There are people, for some reason, might have prepared. Looking at the past years, they never knew that these times will come. So today, it will look as though these are happening to everybody. But there are people, in spite of the economic situation of our country, people, they are still, they are still living well. They are still having, their good times. And you look as though they are not living in this country. They prepared before now. So I beg you in the name of God, it will never always be like this. Young man, it will not always be like this. Young woman, it will not always be like this. Do the things you need to do with the time you have, with the resources at your disposal, as it will not always be like this.